that conjures up an image. Great. Yeah, so a very warm welcome to you all. It's great, isn't it, that we come together in this crazy lockdown time to meditate. Such a significant thing to be doing, meditating, to be working on our minds. If anything, lockdown has impressed that upon me more. We can't change our circumstances, but we can change the minds that mediate all our experience. So what I wanted to talk about tonight is, you've probably seen the title, but how to meditate for longer than 20 minutes. Sometimes this question gets asked, how long should I meditate? And I said something on Saturday, in the class on Saturday. I said, actually, in order to meditate for longer, maybe a surprise, but most people need to make less effort. The reason why you can't meditate so much for so long is because you're making too much effort. Effort is a mystery. There is such thing as effortless effort in meditation. But this question of how long to meditate. I was talking with Tom. I was out for a walk with Tom. Don't know if he's here tonight. And he reminded me of a quote of the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama said to that question, how long should you meditate? Well, 20 minutes. He said 20 minutes, unless you're busy. If you're busy, then longer, then an hour, which is great kind of logic, isn't it? But I know what he means, actually. I know what he means. At the moment, I'm very, very busy. My busyness comes and goes in phases, but I'm finding myself, I usually meditate for sort of an hour and a half, hour and a quarter, hour and a half. I'm finding myself meditating for longer because I need to do that. I'm so busy, I need my mind in really, really good shape, as it were. And it's not a sort of contrived state. I feel more freed up, more spontaneous during the day. An interesting bit of logic there from the Dalai Lama. But I would say that actually, if I was only just starting meditation, that wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be true that if I was busy, I should meditate for longer, because when you're establishing a routine or you're learning something, actually that requires energy. It requires resources to really engage with it. For me, I've been meditating a long time, so I'm sort of, as the phrase goes, unconsciously competent. So for me, it's okay when I'm busy to meditate. It's manageable and helpful to meditate when I'm busy for longer. But if you're just establishing a pattern, or you're just starting to extend from 20 to 40 minutes or something like that, well, you'll need resources to do that. So another quote, my teacher, Sangharakshita, said, actually, well, 20 minutes is enough. 20 minutes is fine. Just focus on enjoying the 20 minutes. That might sort of slightly throw you, particularly if you're thinking, I want to get to 40 minutes. And that is why he's saying it. Because our usual mode of engagement is a goal orientation. We're sort of wanting to get to 40 minutes. And actually that can be counterproductive. It can be sort of slightly too narrow. It will actually sort of not provide us with the sort of motive that will help us go deeper in meditation, help us move towards an effortless effort. Instead, I'd encourage you to cultivate a sense of adventure. So you don't know what's going to happen when you go beyond 20 minutes. You don't know what's going to happen. But I think this kind of quality of adventure, it's linked to sort of enjoying it. I think it's a much more helpful sort of metaphor to engage with. It's directional. It's got a sense of direction, but it's not sort of narrowly sort of focused on where you want to get to. Instead, adventure I think adventure gets closer to what we're doing, because really, when we're meditating, we're learning to work with our minds. Now, the mind is a bit more mysterious than we quite realize. Really, when we're starting to learn to work with our mind, we're starting to take responsibility for something that is shaping our experience. Yeah. So that is an adventure if you start to kind of shape your experience. So a little example of this. A little example. Well, actually, just before I give you that example, perhaps I'll just say a little bit more about goal orientation. So with goal orientation, the problem with it is that there's an assumption to it. We're sort of assuming that we are going to get to the goal sort of unchanged. So it's a bit like we are a car, if you like, and meditation is sort of lifting the bonnet and kind of tinkering a bit with the carburetor, adjusting things to improve our performance. Yeah, that can be the sort of goal orientation. So maybe you're thinking at work, I could be concentrating better. I'll just do a bit of meditation to kind of improve my concentration. But the assumption is that the car stays the same. Yeah, the performance is improved, but the car stays the same. Meditation is not like that. Meditation will fundamentally change you. So a little example, this is why we need an adventure, a sense of adventure. You don't know where you're going, you can't know where you're going. So I remember when I started meditating, and around that time I was a student, I was about 20, and I remember going to a student house, meeting this woman, who's a very, very gregarious woman. And I was a bit in awe of her. I was quite shy, young man, and I was a bit in awe of her. And then I didn't see her for a number of months. I'd been meditating for those months. I'd been learning to meditate. And she popped up in a Buddhist context. And I was really taken aback because she seemed like a different woman. She was gregarious, but she was also actually slightly, to put it, slightly unaware of the people around her. She was slightly sort of preoccupied with her own gregariousness. And to me, it was like a piece of the world had changed. I hadn't been thinking about her. I hadn't been putting her in my metta bhavana. But just by dint of changing my mind, it was like another piece of the world, you know, the sort of her-shaped piece of the world had changed as a consequence of me meditating. And that was totally unanticipated. It was totally unintentional. But that's what can happen with meditation. We don't know. We can't anticipate when you change your mind, when you work on changing your mind, when you take responsibility for how you're shaping your experience, you will experience that things external to you, seemingly external to you, change. Of course, it was just my mind changing, but that wasn't how I experienced it. I experienced it as her being different. So just a little example of how actually we with changing the mind, we enter upon an adventure. And the thing about adventure is it gets us out of sort of narrow goal orientation. And it also touches on this element of enjoyment. So we only embark on adventure out of a sort of spirit of fun. It's not a sort of earnest, worthy thing. And so actually this aspect of enjoying the meditation is really, really important, really, really significant. So in order to move beyond the 20-minute barrier in meditation, I'm going to talk about enjoyment, well, adventure, but coupled with that, enjoyment, measuring, and playfulness. I just want to talk about those three elements to cultivate in the work of extending our meditation. It is an adventure to extend the length of your meditation, but we need to go about it in a skillful kind of way. So actually what we're going to do later is we're going to, as usual, meditate for 20 minutes. But at the end of that 20 minutes, we're going to stop. We're going to pause and say, okay, do I actually want to extend this by 5 minutes? And we're going to ask ourselves a really honest question. If you don't, let's stop, then stop. But if you do, then carry on. And that way, we can start to engage with meditation as something that we enjoy. Really, really important that we sort of emphasize and prioritize that motive. So one thing that the psychologists tell us about enjoyment is that actually cultivating our virtues has a pleasure of a whole new order than mere sort of hedonistic pleasure. That comes from research, apparently asking people, would you rather you had a machine where you could instantly sort of medicate yourself with pleasure, or would you rather earn your pleasure? The research shows that people would rather earn it. Well, that is what developing our virtues is like. So actually, this is the kind of enjoyment we can have in meditation. So what that requires is that you're working effectively with your mental habits. So instead of trying to get somewhere, let's just make the focus working effectively with our mental habits. Yeah. It's a really, really interesting thing, this. I think if you are satisfied by something, if you are really enjoying it, probably, or perhaps you can say definitely, you will be working with the mental habits that tend to limit you. So a little example for me is rock climbing. I used to love rock climbing. I don't do it anymore. It's a bit mad, but I enjoyed it. I found it satisfying because it enabled me to effectively work with some of my mental habits. I'm very, very sort of anxious. So I had to confront fear, but also a tendency, a sort of insidious tendency to doubt how things were going to work out. Well, you won't climb a rock face if you doubt that you can't get to the top. The costs are too high. So it was only after that I realized kind of quite why I loved rock climbing so much, but it enabled me, it sort of forced me to go beyond the mental habits that sort of limited me. And I'd find it very, very, very satisfying. So I think actually anything that we're enjoying or finding satisfying probably is enabling us, things you do in your life, enabling us to step out of our habits. So this is the kind of enjoyment that we can derive in meditation. So we're not enjoying meditation in terms of sort of fantasizing about cream buns or whatever your favorite. We're actually enjoying working effectively. That is the enjoyment that we can gain, even if it's uncomfortable. We can be experiencing discomfort. You might even be experiencing kind of not very much progress, but you're working effectively. Look for the enjoyment in that. It's really, really important. Because if we're going to make progress, if we're going to extend the length of time we can meditate, we need to be prepared to experience a bit of discomfort. It's a long-term sort of goal, basically, or it's a long-term project. Is extending your meditation. There's another thought there that's just disappeared. Maybe it'll come back. Yeah, so really important that we learn to enjoy effectively engaging in meditation. But it's not always easy to know if you're making, that was my point. Yeah, so if we're going to work with our mental habits, we can't expect to break them each time. We need to be happy just to work effectively and not break through a habit. Yeah, because if we do that, we will weaken them. It's that the metaphor is that you're a hammer on a rock, and it's by the 19th blow, the rock looks exactly the same as it did before you hit it. By the 20th blow, it's broken in half. Well, meditation is similarly like that. We need to be able to take satisfaction and take a measure of whether our meditation is worthwhile by are we working effectively, not by the results of whether we've broken through. Yeah. So at the same time, it's tricky sometimes to do this, isn't it? Sometimes we don't know, am I making progress or not? Am I actually sort of working effectively? We'll start to doubt that. So that's why I think it's important to measure. It's important to sort of measure what we're doing. So actually kind of quite carefully observing, is this having an effect? If you're enjoying it and it's satisfying, you probably will be. Just trust that you're working effectively. But sometimes we might need to measure. I'll say a bit more about that in practice, so that we can actually see, has this changed, even infinitesimally? That's kind of really important to see that it is having an effect. And then the last thing that I want to mention is play. So this is really, really important. A playful, light approach. It's there in the metaphor of adventure, isn't it? We don't go earnestly. It might be uncomfortable at times, but we don't go earnestly upon an adventure. We go with a lightness, a sense of fun, a sense of play. And this is quite deep. So when I first heard this, I was a bit sort of, I didn't like it. I didn't like the sound of it. I was quite sort of serious and earnest. But if you are serious about meditation, then you need to be light. You need to be playful. And that is because our mental habits, our hindrances, our coverings want to be taken seriously. Ooh, strange noise. They want to be taken seriously. If we take them seriously, we sort of dignify them, we honor them with more respect than we should give them. If instead we don't take them seriously, we just keep, oh, there it is, anxiety, then our hindrances will not like that. They want to be taken absolutely seriously. What a hindrance or a mental habit does is it tries to pull us into the orbit of its own centripetal force. Yeah, it tries to pull us into orbit. What we tend to do with anxiety is go, oh my God, there's anxiety. Oh, I better do something about it. And we're already pulled into it. Yeah. So instead, we need to laugh. We need to have this sort of good humored, sort of light, playful approach. Oh, there is one of my mental habits, and just be able to sort of stay playful, stay light. Don't take it too seriously. If you encounter something a bit dark, don't get heavy about it. Don't take it too seriously. Our hindrances, as I say, want to be taken seriously. They will feel, yes, I am starting to win. They will feel endowed with the power that you invest in them. If instead you laugh at them, they will feel, oh, I'm not being taken seriously. They'll feel, I'm just being seen as a tendency. That's all I am. Well, that is what our mental habits are. They're only tendencies. Let's not sort of invest them with more power than they have. So keeping this sort of light, playful attitude. So that's what I'm going to suggest we do. With the spirit of adventure, in the spirit of adventure, we meditate 20 minutes and focus on enjoying working effectively. We might need to sort of measure to verify if we're doing that. And let's keep a sense of lightness, a sense of play. So important. What we're doing is really challenging. Working on your mind is really challenging. So we need this sense of lightness. You need that. If you don't, it's going to be sort of just shoveling, coal, digging kind of dirt. That won't be sustainable. If you want to enjoy meditating for longer, you need a light approach to it. Yeah. So what we're going to do in the practice is we're going to just bring in that attitude and engage with the mindfulness of breathing. And what I suggest you do, if you recognize a mental habit at play, a hindrance, or one of the coverings, the way we've been talking about it on the 6-week challenge, see if you can cultivate the opposite. If you're anxious, bring your awareness lower in the body and contact a sense of calm. Yeah, that way you can just, there's a bit of anxiety, but there's also calm here. If we're kind of grasping after something else, we want to be somewhere else, there's craving, or if actually there's aversion, we're kind of rehearsing someone's fault, something like that, if that comes up, see if you can contact an experience right now of enjoyment. That will take us away from the unpleasant experience of aversion, and also we won't be needing sort of enjoyment from something else. We won't be craving enjoyment from something else. Yep. And then if it's sleepiness, well, actually try relaxing. Often our sleepiness can be pushing away tensions that we don't want to allow into awareness. See if you can relax, but bring the higher in the body. Bring your awareness higher in the body. And then the last one, doubt, just commitment. Cultivate the opposite. just say, okay, well, maybe it's not going to work, this meditation, but I'm going to give it a go. Why don't I try and find out? Yeah. Great. So cultivating the opposite. So let's get going. So if you want to get into your meditation posture, as though we're embarking upon an adventure together. So it might go well, it might go badly in the simplistic terms. That's fine. This is an adventure. Let's see what we discover. We do not know. We cannot see the unforeseen consequences of changing our mind. So when you're ready, closing your eyes. And just not assuming what your experience is. Let's just be openly sort of be curious. What's actually arising in your experience right now? So feeling the sensations of the body with the rise and fall of the chest, the torso, the expansion and drifting back of ribs, feeling the ground beneath us, the cushion or the chair, pushing up. That's actually all we can feel directly, something pushing back. So just letting the ground do that, letting the ground take your weight. So staying in touch with this sense of lightness and playfulness, whatever's happening. This way the mind is much more malleable. Great tendency is to just force the concentration, which will work for a short period. But you won't learn to work with your mind. You won't be able to meditate for very long doing that. If we can keep our mind light, so if your mind is all over the place, brilliant. Just let it be all over the place. And just see if you can take that lightly with good humor. That's the place to start working with the mind. That's the attitude to start working with the mind from. Let's not push away and force our mental habits out of the way. And then letting the sensations of breathing, just letting them emerge into your awareness. So where is it you're feeling the breath right now? For me, it's still quite faint. So I'm just giving it time for those sensations to sort of gather in intensity, in detail. Breath is starting, the sensations of breathing is starting to get a little bit more vivid. The more tangible it is, the more easy it is to rest your attention in the sensations of breathing. So if you've already recognized a mental habit, that's great. Just keeping a light attitude. Let's not get drawn into the orbit of that habit. See if we can stay playful. Don't take it seriously. Just allowing our attention to pool and gather in the sensations of breathing. And if there's any sense of enjoyment in this subtle work of not getting drawn into the orbit of the hindrance, the habit, staying light and playful, that's really good if you're actually enjoying that in some subtle way. So just using the counting in the first stage after the out-breath, just as a way of trying to encourage a continuity of attention on the breath. So this is a way of measuring, can we rest our attention in the sensations of breathing for the whole of the in-breath, the whole of the out-breath? If so, count 1 or say 1. If not, that's great. Then you know where you are. That's where we need to start. Start close in, as the poem tells us. If and when the mind goes off, that's great. That's all part of meditation. Keep in this sense of play, sense of adventure. Our focus is to work effectively, enjoy working effectively. That's the main thing. That's going to ask more of you, so it will also be more satisfying. More of you will be involved. Great, and as we come towards the end of the first stage, just dropping your effort for a moment, noticing, have there been any small changes? No problem if there hasn't, but just noticing, is my body slightly more relaxed? Any small changes? This way, just sort of measuring the effectiveness of our efforts. And moving into the second stage, saying one before the in-breath, saying it in your own mind, and checking that your attention is resting in the direct sensations. Are they still vivid? Perhaps they're slightly more vivid, perhaps slightly more detail. Well, that's an infinitesimal change. So not forcing the mind, instead enjoying working effectively. Might be discomfort, struggle even. See if there's a sense of enjoyment as well as that. And if there's no sense of enjoyment whatsoever, that's fine too. But just perhaps looking for a sense of pleasure in the warmth of your hands. Which might just tip the balance towards enjoyment enough to relax the mind. And if you're becoming aware of any habits, that's great. Well done. Just recognizing them is meditating. See if you can stay light and playful. Laugh at them a little bit. Don't take them seriously. Try cultivating the opposite. And as you do this, notice if there's any subtle enjoyment of working effectively with your mind as it is. As it is now. It's only you that can do that, can discover that. It doesn't matter how far there is to go. Just looking for enjoyment in working effectively. Avoiding tendency to force the concentration. Letting the mind be light. Let it do what it wants to do so that it's malleable enough to work with it. Then you can work effectively. If your meditation falls apart, that's great. That's a learning too. Might be a really important step. And now drop the counting, resting the attention in the sensations of breathing, in the spirit of adventure, the adventure of mind. Letting the mind be light, uncontrolled, uncontrived, so that we can work with it effectively. And looking for this subtle enjoyment of working effectively with the mind. Cultivating the opposite. Not taking our habits seriously. And as we move into the fourth stage, just noticing, have there been any changes, however infinitesimal, just measuring how far have we come in the meditation before engaging in the fourth stage, finding a finer experience of the breath, seeing if that can deepen your enjoyment of the breath and your attentiveness to the breath. Not forcing the mind, keeping the mind light, playful, so that we can work with it. Working effectively with the mind. And now, as we come to the end of 20 minutes, just stopping and asking yourself, would I like to continue for another 5 minutes? Really honest question. This next 5 minutes is going to be for sheer enjoyment, even if there's discomfort. You might feel you would like to. See where it leads. Or you might feel no. So honoring, allowing yourself to stop, because at the moment you're not enjoying it. So making your decision, if you're going to stop, then just taking a moment to sit and absorb the meditation. And if you're going to carry on, then re-engaging with the meditation by rediscovering the sensations of breathing in the body and resting your attention there just for enjoyment of working effectively with the habits that limit you. Keeping the mind light and playful. So now, if you're still meditating, as we come towards the end of the practice, is dropping the effort you're making and sitting. See if you can sit absolutely still, really honoring this important part of the practice. We don't know what effects the meditation has had. But the effects need us to stop making effort in order to take root, in order to fruit and change us. So really important that we stop and just absorb the efforts of our meditation. So when you're ready, opening your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, becoming aware of the other people you're sharing meditation night with. So giving yourself a bit of adjustment time. And if there are any questions or comments, do put them in the chat box. That will help us explore this area a bit further.
Craig says, very useful to speak of opposites in meditation if you ever need a smile.
Oh, yeah. Cultivating the opposite is really, it's really helpful little approach, isn't it? Yeah. Samudra Ghosh is just reading a bit more.
Says, when speaking, try raising your voice when you mean to lower it, and vice versa.
Oh, right.
Jeanette says, thanks, Art Study. I realised I was treating meditation too seriously and controlling, rather than as an opportunity to spend time with myself and see who I am and play. Yeah,
great. That's great to hear, Jeanette. Yeah, it's so easy. I really didn't like this idea of not taking our hindrances, our habits too seriously. I was very, very earnest when I first started meditating. And actually, that was it was a habit. And it was a habit that I was reluctant to let go of. But yeah, it's really important, what you say. So thanks for, really, really good to hear that you found that helpful. And thanks for sharing that.
I noticed myself, it was fairly balanced, but I chose to come out of meditation at the 20-minute mark. But then you said something that made me notice there was a real pleasure of calm in the body.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to go back in.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoyed the last part of it.
Great. It's really interesting, isn't it? We can be so focused on meditating, on working, that we don't notice we don't notice that actually we've got deeper. Our mind is more concentrated, and that there is a pleasure, even despite sort of little discomforts. There is a pleasure involved in that. Sometimes only when we decide to stop that we notice that. So I can really relate to that, Samudra. And it's so important. It's so important that we allow ourselves to enjoy meditation. It can make the difference, and that's what my teacher was getting at. That actually, don't try and we can get into a sort of competition with ourselves that we need to progress, in some sort of achievement sort of mode, and that might actually be preventing you from progress. So if sometimes at least we really sort of emphasize this approach of just enjoying the meditation, you might find that you're meditating for significantly longer. So if you want to break the 20-minute barrier, don't try and break the 20-minute barrier. Enjoy it, play, and see what happens. That way, inch by inch. If you do that over time, and you focus on trying to work effectively, you will have an effect on your mind. And at some point, if you do that over a month, for example, you will experience this effortless effort, this sort of effortless engagement, where actually you just want to focus on the breath. That's all you want to do. There'll be moments, and a moment is enough to see, there's a deeper way of engaging that's more enjoyable and requires less effort. We need to have these glimpses in order to see, there's another way of doing this. There's another way is possible. Yeah. Are there any more questions coming out, Samudra?
Jeanette asks, what's the longest meditation you've ever done?
Yeah. I've certainly meditated for 2 hours, not infrequently. I probably meditated for longer than that. Actually, I probably meditated for 3 hours or something like that on solitary. But I'm not totally sure. Yeah, it's a while ago since I had a solitary that was very, very focused on meditation. But I was meditating for long stints, and it's sort of even the body, the discomfort of the body. Like I needed to put my knees up this morning because my leg was going numb. But that, it's interesting, if you're really, really concentrated, that subsides, the body relaxes. So even the sort of pains of the body are sort of affected by our concentration, very interestingly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that it is a competition.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The question of whether you travelled to Tibet or elsewhere to meditate ever.
Oh, right. I've meditated in India and in Sikkim, but I've never been to Tibet. Yeah. Great. Well, maybe as we're coming, unless there are any other questions coming out, I can just mention what's coming up. So next week, I believe Vidyasaki will be leading the meditation night, and after that, we'll be starting a new theme. So the course on Saturday. And also the theme on Thursday will be based in and around who hates the Metta Bhavana. So it's going to be focused on the Metta Bhavana practice. There's loads to discover with the Metta Bhavana practice. It is a hugely transformative practice, but it's quite how to put it, it's quite a subtle practice in a way. So there's lots and lots to learn. So if you would like to sort of pursue that, if you would like to sort of continue on your Saturdays, then join the Who Hates the Metta Bhavana course. Samudra Gosha here is going to be leading that along with Papajalta. So that will be really excellent if that's what you would like to do. And as I say, that the meditation nights will continue they'll be linked to that theme of Who Hates the Metta Bhavana.
There will be some mindfulness of breathing as well.
There will also be mindfulness of breathing. The two practice are really sort of two wings of a bird. And is there anything else to say? I can mention Dharna, can't I? Was there something else I was going to say?
Intro course.
The intro course, that's right. Yeah, there's also a course starting up which will give you a complete sort of introduction to Buddhism. There'll also be meditation on it. But if you want to get the whole thing, then do that. Go on to our, I think Samudra Gosha will put the link in the chat box. And it'll give you the whole thing. And when you get the whole thing with Buddhism, it's not just ideas, it's also putting it into practice. You can't understand Buddhism merely intellectually. You won't be able to. It's not Buddhism. You need to practice it. So that's what we do on the intro course. We'll get you putting it into practice. So if you're interested by that adventure, another adventure, then follow the link. And lastly, I'll just mention that we give these classes freely, and we do that. That does not mean they're sort of free in terms of price, if you see what I mean. It does not mean that we don't put much into it. We do, because we believe in what we're doing. But we want to give them freely, because actually that's the best way to teach people to meditate. It's not really a transaction. It's something a bit deeper than that. So you teach people to meditate in the context of a relationship. And therefore, we want to do our activities on what we call a dana basis. On the basis of generosity, we give the classes freely. And if you're appreciating them, if it's affecting you, and you're in a position financially to give something, to contribute, then that's what we're trying to sort of bring about actually at the Buddhist Center. What we call it is a dana economy, an economy that's based on generosity. We give to you, and if you're appreciating it and if you're able financially, then we're inviting you to consider giving something well, it's not really to us, because we just use it to teach more meditation and Buddhism. But you will effectively be giving to other people. So Samudra Gosha will have put the link, and if you're able to, it really helps us to have a standing order. But that there's absolutely no pressure to do that. You can give a one-off donation, anything, however large or small. We'd encourage you to consider giving what you feel you would like to. Great. Okay. Well, very good to have you all here with us tonight. Thanks to Samudra Gosha, who's been helping behind the camera. And we'll see you either on Saturday or a week today. Have a very good week. Good luck with your ongoing adventure, the adventure of the mind.